Welcome to All Home Care Matters, the show where we discuss all things home care, with discussions on important age-related matters and topics. Brought to you by Enriched Life Home Care Services, the #1 rated home care provider in Michigan by Top Rated Local.
Hello, and welcome back to All Home Care Matters. If this is your first time visiting us here at the show, we want to say thank you for taking time out to be with us today. We appreciate how valuable everyone's time is, and that's why we try and make each episode here at All Home Care Matters something that will hopefully matter to you. Today, we are honored to welcome the co-founders of Evaheld, Michelle Gomes and Michelle Costa. Welcome.
Thank you for having us.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So, I welcomed you as the co-founders of Evaheld. Let's start off with what exactly is Evaheld?
Evaheld is it's an online platform where users can create video, audio, or written content, and we will safekeep that content for them and deliver it for them posthumously to their recipients of choice.
Okay, and what brought you two ladies together to create Evaheld?
I think we each have our own sort of story or our own reason for wanting to be a part of Evaheld and for producing Evaheld in the first place. I think mine comes from my history with my father. My father had a long and arduous battle with dementia. And I think it sort of dawned on me at a point in time that I actually didn't have any audio or video content of him at all. So he's passed now. So he passed about 4 years ago. And now it's really difficult for me to remember the sound of his voice. And I think that was one of the strongest, personal reasons why I thought this is this sort of pain that you feel, with the grief and loss of a loved one. I don't want to see other people sort of suffer that same pain. So that was my personal reason, but I think Michelle has her own reasons.
Yeah, I think for me, the whole concept of posthumous content was brought into my life when a good friend of mine passed away 8 years ago, and she was 33 when she passed, and she left behind 2 little boys that were 5 and 7. Luckily, before she passed away, she wrote them letters to receive as adults, which they are yet to receive. But it really dawned on me that this was quite a new concept and that most people weren't creating any content like this. And this spurred nearly a decade of volunteering this service, just helping people specifically at end of life create content for the specific purpose of being delivered after their death. And it kind of, I think during COVID, when we weren't able to help people, we kind of thought this should be accessible to the world. And we started building Evaheld with all our learnings over the years.
What were your backgrounds before developing this platform?
A professional background?
Yeah.
I actually still work in a professional capacity. So I'm a chapter lead. I lead a team of business analysts in the Commonwealth Bank, which is one of Australia's biggest banks.
Okay. All right. Michelle, how about you?
So I was running an agency in Sydney immediately prior to Evaheld.
You said you were running an agency. Is that like a marketing agency or what?
Exactly, marketing and production.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So how have you found your backgrounds? I mean, probably neither of you, and I could be wrong, probably expected to, at any point you're going to create this digital platform. How have you found, though, that your background and experiences, you with your father and, you with your close friend, how have those things all helped to, make Evaheld what it is today?
Yeah, so I think our personal background definitely provides our passion. So our passion and our understanding, I guess, to some extent, the absolute need for a platform like Evaheld. I think our professional, certainly my professional background lends to an aspect of the business, and then Michelle's background lends to a very different aspect of the business. So we bring sort of different personal and professional experience to the project, and I think it's a really kind of lovely blend.
Yeah, kind of like you can't have one without the other, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
We definitely complement one another.
Sure. So I want to talk a little bit, because Michelle Costa, you'd mentioned, your father's experience with dementia. And when I had spoken to Michelle previously, I was sharing, we do a lot of work with a lot of different Australian organizations and, educational institutes and things. Have you found any feedback from any of the people in the dementia community in Australia where you guys are located that have kind of picked up and saw the benefits of this?
Yeah, so I'll probably let Michelle answer this one because I can certainly speak to it from a personal background, but Michelle does a lot of our marketing and reach out stuff. So she's got more of so I'll probably let you answer that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for us, that's an obvious use case with dementia. We're in conversations with quite a few potential partners. And a lot of the time, we're very fortunate with Evaheld that we have the type of service that gets people's interest and that people see the value in straight away. And so we're currently actually trying to work with partners. What does that look like? When is the service offered is a particular concern for a lot of potential providers. So how do we, this is obviously something that would be offered to someone in the earliest stages of a diagnosis. Yeah. So it's about, and it's also something that is very, very sensitive. As you would know, Lance, there are lots and lots of considerations for families and people when they've just been diagnosed with dementia, outside of also having something like this just thrust upon them. So what we're trying to do right now is work out what that looks like. How do we come in and offer this service in a way that is, of benefit and enhances their quality of life?
And not overwhelming, because the diagnosis in and of itself is incredibly overwhelming, for the person who has been diagnosed and for the family and friends of that person. So, we need to, there's a lot of sensitivity around the point of introduction. And as Michelle said, I think it's really important that we focus on how best to introduce and not overwhelm, and it be something that is beneficial and not, not something that's going to be too much.
Yeah. So I think, and then going off that, the best position that we're in is that we are going to go through partners and obviously people that are recommending our service, whether that's palliative care providers, whether that's the medical organisations that champion these type of causes. It's definitely not, we've decided that it's definitely not something that we are going to market, to end users. We just definitely are very conscious of that life period.
What, just curious, how did you decide on the name Evaheld? Is that an Australian term that maybe I'm not familiar with, or is there a story behind it?
This is not very exciting.
No, it's not very exciting, unfortunately.
Yeah, we actually...
You can just, Michelle, you can make something up to make it exciting for the show if you want. That's okay.
No, we actually originally were called After I Go, but we could not get the .com, so we had to go back and think about... we had to conceptualize a new name, and actually it turned out even better because we've ended up with a name that has what we feel, the feel of continuation to it. So something that is Evaheld.
Yeah.
And we just didn't want to do the traditional, we didn't want to spell it properly.
Yeah.
Well, and I think you accomplished that, because that's what I thought it meant. But, Michelle Gomes, when we previously spoke, I was telling you about a good friend of ours, Renee Brack. And I don't know at the time, maybe it didn't ring a bell to you, but we did the first media interview for her documentary about her father and her journey, Tickety Boo. And I didn't know what Tickety Boo meant at the time, and I've since learned. And I saw we're actually mutually connected with her professionally. And if you haven't seen her film, I'm plugging it right now because it's such a powerful film. Several of our friends were featured in the film. Tim England, Professor Ralph Martins. These are all Australian thought leaders in the world of dementia. It's just a tremendous film, and I saw that we were connected, and so I didn't know if you'd seen it yet. But if you haven't, I highly recommend it. But I'm thinking, about your target audience. Are you guys? I know this is something that we can all use. I could use it with my family, and things for my children. But who is your, if there is one, ideal user that you're really going after? Is it the people caring for loved ones with dementia? Or is that just one of many? Who would you say is your ideal target?
I think our obvious user is people who are at end of life or who have had a terminal diagnosis. They're probably our obvious user. But what we found is our users are actually quite wide and varied, and we were surprised to see that we got a lot of interest from young parents, people who have just had children. That seemed to be a really big use case that we were not expecting and has propped up. So I don't think, whilst I think the concept of Evaheld is definitely, messages for your loved ones, and do it like before you go. I think it is a lot wider than that in terms of its uses. It is not just messaging for just before you're passing away. There are, podcasts, that you can create for your family history. There's we're seeing people creating messages for unborn grandchildren. We're seeing, people creating memoirs of their lives to leave to, a legacy to leave behind to their families. There's so many wide and varied reasons that I don't think that we can, just stay on sort of the obvious, if you know what I mean.
Right. Can you share a little bit about who you're seeing using the platform right now? Have you seen it surprise you where you expected it was going to be people? I know you mentioned young parents, but right now, who's the majority of your users?
The majority of our users are actually in the, I think it's 30 to 50 age bracket. Okay. So that was very unexpected for us.
Yeah. And also very unexpected, the majority of them are in the US.
Yeah, that's true as well. Also very unexpected.
We're proud of that. So go ahead, Michelle.
No, I just said so are we.
So Evaheld did do some of the first research into posthumous content, and more specifically into the specific inhibitors that prevent more people from creating that posthumous content. Can you share what you're finding and what you found with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we started doing the research, we kind of had a lot of personal experience to validate and invalidate. And what we didn't want to do when we started to build the platform was build our biases into it and not actually go out and test those. So we did our research. We weren't surprised by the findings. We've categorized it as the top three inhibitors. So trust, privacy, and guidance. So number one is trust. And in regards to people not creating content because they didn't have anybody they trusted to distribute the content, or they didn't want to burden anyone with having to do so. An interesting one there was, even when they did have someone to distribute the content, often that person was the only person or one of the key people to whom they wanted to gift this content and have it be a surprise. So that obviously didn't work. A lot of other things that we found, a lot of people will prop up at this time and say, what about give it to your solicitor and whatnot? The feedback we had from that was automatically, when a lot of our users hear solicitor, they just think it's going to be really costly.
Right.
And
solicitor
also,
being attorney for American viewers, right?
Yes, sorry, apologies.
An attorney, that's
attorney.
right.
That's right.
There's also the fear of manual error there. And when you're talking about lifetime accounts, as Michelle mentioned before, that our users are a lot younger than we expected. We're talking about people coming on and creating messages now when their kids are 5 and deciding that in 10 years' time, when they're 15, they would probably want to share more. So what this provides
or
is
change the content
exactly.
altogether.
Yeah,
create a new message.
Yeah, so it's almost like it almost becomes this family vault of content that is a lot easier to manage in this way than constantly having to update something with someone like an attorney. The second thing we found was around privacy. So another big one, they did not want the content to be found before they passed away. Whether or not it was by the intended recipient or not didn't really matter. They just did not want to have that interaction with this type of content that is so vulnerable for a lot of people to create being found. Number three, the biggest, is the guidance. So conceptually, it seems really straightforward. Record your thoughts and leave them for someone. Actually doing it is
hardest.
one of the most difficult things for people to do.
Yeah.
And we were very fortunate in this way because we had been doing it in person. So we knew that we had to build in the guidance and the support that we were giving people in person into the platform.
Prompters, just, a lot of prompting, because people do sort of freeze up when they're talking about, the recesses of their mind and their brains and their thoughts and and also when you're trying to convey a message to a loved one in a video, it's so difficult to convey love alone. So just a little bit of guidance, a little bit of prompting, a little bit of help just to, help people along the way.
Do the two of you use the platform?
Interesting. I actually do have content, but I have it on my phone. I haven't as yet uploaded it onto Evaheld, but the functionality and capability is there. So yes, I do intend to do that.
How about you, Michelle?
I'm not there yet, Lance. I definitely will be doing it though.
I want to talk about too. Evaheld is the first memorialization platform of its kind in many ways. Share what that means and why you guys are the first.
I'm not quite sure why we're the first. I mean, I think there are a lot of memorialization type platforms out there, but there isn't one that is like ours. I think we've been able to build in an independent verification tool within the platform itself. So we're actually able to independently verify when someone has passed away, and we actually don't need them to assign a third person. We can do that on their behalf for them. So that is new, being able to just create content on the platform itself, have it all in the one location where it's, where we will safekeep it for them. We will, keep it, we'll maintain their trust and their privacy. We'll keep it secure. And then we will find out when they have passed away and we will deliver it as per their delivery wishes or recipient wishes.
So it's kind of like a receipt upon passing.
Yeah.
So that's actually the value. So for us, the value of the platform is this full service.
Yeah, it's a one-stop shop.
Yeah. I think a lot of people that operate in the space, that operate beautifully in the space, might I add, very much concentrate on specific niches of content creation. So we're just going to do a storybook. Mm-hmm. And, and it's beautifully done. After a year, the journey, the person receives a storybook. When the person receives that storybook, then they're still left with the job of gifting it or putting it in their will or whatever it is that they want to do. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I guess with Evaheld is we do that, but then as well as that, we're doing all of the delivery posthumously for you if you do want that to continue to be a surprise and a gift. So that's kind of how we operate. We've kind of thought we will allow our users to create any form of content that they want. Do it with us because you do want that delivery aspect and that safety and privacy.
Yeah, and we will be the guardians.
Yeah, I want to follow up on that. So let's say my grandfather was using Evaheld and family knows nothing about it. He's doing it very privately, discreetly, almost as a surprise, if you will, upon his passing. He lists, one of my parents or one of his other children as, the beneficiary of Evaheld content. So they put their information in there, but how will you guys know when my grandfather passes?
We can't give you all the so Lance, can we?
So we do call this is part of our AI, but we do call this
our
not
well-being.
AI, it's part of our IP, but we do call this our well-being system.
Okay.
So it's literally it's inbuilt into the system, and there's a few checks and measures. Initially, it is almost like a scheduling system where we check in, and then eventually, once we don't receive a check-in from you, it just kicks off a course of other events.
Okay. So, and I kind of assume that, but I'm just like thinking, you having to Google all of your users to see if they passed, but that makes sense. That makes sense. You are also about to introduce online memorial service. Do you guys want to share a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, we're pretty excited about that, actually. We're hoping to launch that pretty soon. That for us is really just a way for people to continue to honour their loved ones. So I think for myself, and I think I mentioned this earlier, I wasn't the recipient of an Evaheld, video or piece of content, unfortunately, and I don't have any audio or video content of my father. So for me, the best way that I can honour him is by creating an online memorial for him. So I feel like it's appealing to a set of users that are potentially more like myself, that are beyond receiving any content from Evaheld. So it's a way for them to continue to honour their loved ones by having an online platform or memorial. And it's a beautiful way that we think to allow like family and friends to also make tributes to this platform and to this, to this person's memorial, and potentially add stories that the person who's creating, and maybe it might be the child, in my case the daughter, might not know about, and might just have I think further insight into who my father was through stories and tales by family and friends. We're going to link it all to a QR code as well, so users can place on commemorative sites or in funeral booklets or any in any manner that they want to use it. So yeah,
that's really wonderful. And as you're talking, Michelle, I can envision even at funeral homes, when families are pre-planning or planning or going through a funeral, I could see this as being a service offered to the surviving family members that they would want to take advantage of, whether it's through the memorial service option or just starting their own Evaheld account, because there's so many different ways that this could benefit people. I could even see, kids even wanting to have their own account just to kind of, memorialize their childhood, and then their kind of keeping their own like online diary or journal, if you will. That's wonderful. And have you guys received or done any research on the, psychological benefits of this? Because I can almost see it as like a counseling service too.
Yeah. Look, we haven't done, I wouldn't say we've done in-depth research as we did with Evaheld. But we certainly have done a lot of reading, and we are aware of, but I think that the psychological effects that this has on people is also evident on Evaheld, because I feel like there's, sometimes.
Well, that's where we have the most evidence, because we have all the user feedback.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, we do have the user feedback. Yeah, I think, and the users have told us that there's this immense sense of relief, when they sort of. I wouldn't call it an unburdening, but when you get out what you want to say, and that what you want to say will be delivered, that comes with a huge sense of relief. And, that's been some of the feedback that we've received from our users.
As we say, leaving less unsaid.
Yes. Leave less unsaid.
Leave less unsaid, and I think it's got a bigger impact than a lot of us realise, not just on the person creating the content, but on the person receiving the content.
Absolutely.
A lot of the times our recipients aren't expecting to receive this content.
Yeah.
And we get things all the time, like it's one of the best gifts that I've ever received.
Yeah.
And what we're seeing, and we hope that one day it will be something that, like you say, we have enough evidence of it to make this claim, but it's a form of intergenerational healing.
Yeah.
And instead of looking at someone before they pass and thinking, you know, why couldn't you say those things? You know, this is just about facilitating someone exactly where they are to leave less unsaid.
Yeah.
And it's very important.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. I'm going to ask if you guys would do a demo for us here for in a minute, but one more quick question. Is there one piece of feedback that either of you have received that really just drove the point home that we're doing the right thing and this is something needed?
Thanks for me, it's all of it.
Yeah.
I'm specifically doing this this service for so many years in person. It is one of the most profound experiences of my life. It's such an honor to hold space with people and create this type of content. It's huge. And as I was saying earlier, we're still in the position, especially with Evaheld, where nearly everyone we speak to says, wow, I've never thought to do that, but it's such a good idea. I've just got to do it. So we're still in that position that it's very much an education journey for us with our users, but anyone who has used the service
or even just heard about it.
Yeah.
You know, we've had a lot of, you know.
Most recently, we did a friend of yours who has 3 young children. It was that use case. It was, you know, a huge emotional experience.
It was very emotional, actually. There was a lot of tears and there was tears from us. It was, you know, it was quite an emotional, experience.
We support in Australia. So one of the organisations that we sponsor is called Derek's Place. So what they do is they provide financial grants to young families. So at least one of the children has to be under 13 years old, where one of the parents is terminally ill. So it's no questions asked financial grants just to help keep these families together at the end and create memories. So for every single one of these families, we're offering one of our premium packages so that they're able to do that.
Wonderful.
And
how do you want people to find Evaheld? Is it the App Store, your website? We can put it up on the screen.
Yeah, our website.
That's evaheld.com. EVAHELD.com. We'll have that up on the screen. And are you guys on social media?
We're on all the platforms.
All the platforms, and we'll put those links in the show notes as well, so people can follow you and like your pages. But if the two of you have a few extra moments, would you mind doing a demo for us, real briefly?
Okay, so Lance, this is one of our accounts. This is what it looks like for a user.
Okay.
When they first log in, they actually are taken on a little journey where we try and get a little bit of information regarding who they're creating content, the type of content they'd like to start with.
Whether or not they need help.
Exactly. So on this page, what we've done is we've gotten the most common recipients to start off with, and then we have a whole multitude of different recipients that we find content being created for. Then what we've got here are the different content types. So we always put this first, a leave unsaid message, a description of what that is. We've got things like family history content, my story, my learnings.
A goodbye message.
Message of support for the future. It goes on. And this was very much future birthday messages, really, really popular. And this was all based on our experience of the different types of messages and content that people wanted to create in person. So if I just choose a leave less unsaid message for my child, they can then choose a content style. So like Michelle said earlier, a lot of existing platforms only allow uploads. So we're the first, according to our current knowledge, apart from written, to support in-browser video and audio creation. So these messages will never be on people's devices. So I'll show you the example of a video message. So what happens basically is that depending on the message that they chose, we'll have a teleprompter for them. So we'll suggest the kind of questions and prompters you'll see here. This is the kind of things that we would talk about in person. The person has the opportunity to put in any answers. I'm going to write here test, as I did not prepare, answers as I should have, but essentially, home care matters, putting the Evaheld. So they would answer all of the questions if they'd like to, save it to a teleprompter. And what this does is, as they are, once they begin to film, the teleprompter will go on. And what
Up the top, yeah.
Yeah, so we don't have enough content in there for me to show you it working, but essentially when that is full and you press start, the teleprompter starts moving. It also gives the person an indication of how long their message is. This was particularly significant for us to build in because we know that we have so much to say, and then the moment you've got a camera rolling, you forget everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So the feedback from this specific feature has been huge. Jess, it's something that seems so simple, and yeah, it's really made the difference between someone creating a written piece of content, which is a lot easier to do, than actually now being able to write that out, being completely planned, but film it so that they give their loved one that beautiful opportunity for connection in the future that can't be achieved like it can in video. So we're really proud of facilitating this for people.
Have you ever seen anybody write written content, like a letter to their child or to a parent or, whatever the case may be, and then use the letter and read it in the teleprompter?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, in person, I've definitely seen that. So in person, I've seen people that just can talk off the bat and are ready to go. And there's other people that wrote down every single thing they want to speak about. And it's just much easier for them to read. I think with the platform, it's a little bit harder for us to see that specifically because we're not going in and looking at people's messages.
We don't look at the content, yeah. So I was going to say that. So we don't actually look at the content, so we don't know whether people are reading off a paper that they've created themselves.
Or copy and pasting into the teleprompter.
We can certainly tell if someone's using a prompter.
Yeah.
But yeah, we don't. I guess it's part of our it's part of our
privacy
business model. It's the privacy aspect. We don't look at the content.
Two things, if you don't mind, Michelle, just maybe showing our viewers. Could you show them the the sign up process, what that looks like, and then also how you establish who the content or who their storybook goes to upon their passing, what that looks like?
Yeah.
I'll do that one. I'll do the latter first because that's where we are. So at the end of the message or content creation, you'll get this little preview and it says to choose preferences. So what happens then is you're taken to what we call the preferences modal. So if you have recipients set up already, as we have in here, we've called her Joan recipient, you would select her from your list. Otherwise, you could go to add email recipient and you would put in the person's details here. So as well as having someone's details, you're also able to decide whether they're going to go through a verification process. Now, the most secure verification process is obviously when we are able to do it immediately. So that is all obviously automated and the person confirms straight away and we know that we have the correct details. But for some people, when it is going to be a surprise, they want verification in the future. So then they can set up, which I can show you here, whether they want to verify their recipient immediately or after passing, and then select a verification process. So passwords or answers to questions, etc. So
you could receive a message before your the person's passing too.
Only if you
set it up.
If you want it to be. Okay.
Yeah, so that's more like a future dated message. We do have future dated messages within the platform as well. So
that's the second.
Yeah,
that's the second option.
Yeah.
So you go through that, Mish.
That's okay. You can do it. That's all
So essentially, there's a posthumous delivery option, or they can set a date. And interestingly, for the dementia users that we do have on, we are seeing some people, I think I mentioned this to you, Lance, that are setting, for some of their content, they are setting a date that is in 18 months or 24 months' time when they kind of think that they're going to be in a different stage of their journey. So that might be an encouragement message or something like that. And we're totally set up to facilitate that for people as well. So
me personally, if we go back to the earlier conversation where I was saying that I am definitely going to be setting up an account soon. I have children, and I think I would love to send them a birthday message on each milestone birthday. So whether it be 30th, 40th, 50th, 60th, I'd like them to receive a message from me, even if I'm not around. So just telling them how much I love them and I'm always with them. And I think the whole idea of the future dated birthday message for your children or I think that's just a beautiful concept.
Yeah. It's very cool.
It's a wonderful platform. And if you don't mind me asking, what are the fees if somebody's interested in signing up and joining? Is it monthly? Is it annually? Is it a one-time fee?
Yeah, so right now it's a one-time fee. So to get the entire account for the lifetime of the user is $99, and that includes all of the content, that includes the delivery, the security, absolutely everything. So we've done our very best to keep this really accessible to people. Yeah. And that's basically it. That message is now allocated and ready to send to a person's recipient.
Well, I appreciate you both, and I just think this is so many benefits. I really can't think of any negatives, but just endless benefits to being able to memorialize, your life, these messages, not leaving anything unsaid, healing old wounds, tightening strong bonds. And I just appreciate both of you and your time today. And we're looking forward to, just seeing you guys get this in the hands of everybody everywhere.
Oh, thank you, Lance. Thank you so much for chatting with us today and for showing an interest. I mean, we love Evaheld, but I think we just feel so happy when we hear other people realize the benefit and when it resonates with them. So thank you. We really appreciate it.
Oh, it's our pleasure. And is there any final words or messages you'd like to leave for our audience?
I think one final message we always leave is even if it's not on Evaheld, create content and leave it for your family because they will cherish it.
Absolutely. I just, one small note is it's not on Evaheld, it's on my computer, but, starting with the birth of our first child, every birthday, every lost tooth, every moment and milestone or activity is all been memorialized with my camcorder. My kids give me a little bit of a hard time about it, but I said, because they're young, when you get older, this content is going to be priceless to you. And it's just nice to be able to, occasionally one of them will say, well, can we see Christmas when, we were 2 or, whatever it is, I can go, and I have it all libraried and cataloged so that they can have those memories. And I know the tremendous benefit that there is to being able to have that, albeit this is a little bit different situation than what, the purpose of Evaheld is, but there's a lot of similarities, and I just think, being able to.
That is the purpose is that if that is what is meaningful to you, that you can do that. And something that maybe is not even in the vision. The moment you said that, I thought, what about your unborn grandchildren? What about, you might not be thinking about it, but in 50 years' time, that's incredible. I mean, all of us, we have photographs. Like we're talking about revolutionizing the future of legacy and keeping people's family histories, personal histories, legacies alive. I mean, how cool is that going to be for your great-great-great-grandchildren?
Absolutely. And, listening to the two of you, I'm not trying to put more on your plate, but I can even see, maybe Evaheld, kind of evolving to where, you can send a message to user to user. So let's say your, oldest child goes off to college and they know you have an Evaheld account, and now they want to send messages to you, just to kind of keep that communication open. And, I could just see so many benefits to this platform, and I wish you guys nothing but success and the best of luck. And if we can do anything to help, just let us know.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Glenn.
Have a great day.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Glenn.
Bye-bye.
This is my mother, Catalina.
And this was my grandma.
She was a mother of 9 children and lived a fulfilling life in the Philippines.
Before she went back to the Philippines, I remember that she would babysit me every day.
The last time we got to see her in person was Christmas 2016 in the Philippines.
And 5 years later, the last time we saw her was during her funeral through a Zoom call.
Now, all we have left are old photos and memories that continues to fade.
I don't want the same thing to happen to me and my mom. That's why I'm using Evaheld to allow her to create her own posthumous content. Just like my grandma, I know you have an amazing story to tell, and I want to have vivid memories that I can revisit and even share with my children in the future. Is that okay?
The actual experience of filming these messages for my loved ones was obviously emotional. But once they were done, it was a really amazing experience. And I felt such a sense of relief in the event that something should happen to me. This is something that they can hold on to forever, and they can show their children and whoever else they'd want to. And if they're having a tough time, they can just look back on it and know that mum's still there.
Thank you for joining us today here at All Home Care Matters. All Home Care Matters is here to help families as they navigate these long-term care issues. We invite you to visit us at allhomecarematters.com, where there's a private, secure, fillable form where you can give us feedback, show ideas, or if you have questions. Every form is read and responded to. And remember, you can listen to the show on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms or watch the show on our official YouTube channel. Just make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. We'd also like to say thank you again to Michelle Costa and Michelle Gomes from Evaheld for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next time here at All Home Care Matters.
Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again on another episode of All Home Care Matters. To learn more about the show and to connect with us, visit us at allhomecarematters.com.